Good morning, everybody. It's great to see all of you, both electronically and in person. And thank you for being willing to give up some time on a Saturday morning for this very important work we're trying to do. I'm going to start with a brief devotion for us. Back about 6 weeks ago in December, I moved to St. Paul in July, and I live right in downtown St. Paul. And I have learned when there's a wild game going on to stay home. And I learned that the hard way because one day, it was after the wild game, I thought I was safe. And I was going somewhere, and I was in the left-hand turning lane, just sitting there. And somebody miscalculated something in their driving. They smacked right into the passenger side front of my car. And they were great about it. The insurance is paying for it. And so right now I'm driving a rental car while they fix my car. And I was trying to find my car in the parking ramp where I live, which is not unusual, that I don't remember where I parked it. And I was beeping the horn, and I was like, oh my gosh, it sounds like me, road runner. And it made me laugh so hard that the next time I was out with a friend, I said, come on, you gotta hear this. I think it sounds like the road runner. And so we left where we were, and we walked over to my car, and I beeped it, and she said, it does. So I reflected on that, and that it was something so funny and so small, but I couldn't wait to share it with someone. And it reminded me of the scripture lesson from last Sunday, the gospel, about these disciples saying, come and see. And it wasn't all in the gospel, but there's a series of 5 times people say, come and see. And that's how I feel about all of you and our work here and the sisters, just telling people, come and see, just come and see. And then maybe you'll want to be part of it. But I thought I would read that gospel for us as part of our benediction. The next day, Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, follow me. Now Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, we have found him about whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus, son of Joseph from Nazareth. And Nathanael said, can anything good come out of Nazareth? Philip said to him, come and see. When Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him, he said of him, here is truly an Israelite in whom there is no deceit. Nathanael asked him, where did you get to know me? And Jesus answered, I saw you under the fig tree before Philip called you. Nathanael replied, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. Jesus answered, do you believe because I told you that I saw you under the fig tree? You will see greater things than these. And he said to him, very truly, I tell you, you will see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. On behalf of Cammie and Jeff and I, we're just so glad you're here. We're glad that someone said to you, come and see. And we're glad you did. And when you saw something amazing, these Benedictine sisters. So we're looking forward to working together to see what we can create in the futures so that we can invite others to come and see. Okay. Jeff, I think it's up to you.
Yes, thank you, Anne. Yes, welcome everybody. What we want to do with our time today in the second of our Oblate chapter meetings is to dive deep into the 3 themes that emerged from our first chapter meeting. So as you recall, at the first chapter meeting, Anne led us through an exercise where we put Post-it notes on various poster boards around the dining room, and those of you who were online for that one kind of did a similar exercise online, answering a series of questions related to kind of what you wanted to see from our Oblate community, how we are carrying out this uh, Benedictine mission here at St. Paul's Monastery as Oblates. Um, so, taking all of those post-it notes after we met, a small group of us from the Oblate Advisory Committee got together trying to distill the major themes that came out of those discussions. And it wasn't perfect, and there were some things that maybe didn't fall into these, but in general, the three themes that we came up with were communal prayer, spiritual growth and formation, and hospitality. And I'll go into that in a little bit. What we want to do today is divide up into three groups, and I think right now it looks like we can do one group online and two groups in the room to focus on one of those three. So online, we would be focusing on the communal prayer. And then in the room, the two groups would be spiritual growth and formation and hospitality. Um, and we'll kind of online. I think we'll just let the spirit decide. We're all in one group. In the room, you can gravitate towards which of those two, hospitality or spiritual growth and formation, mean the most to you at this time. So that's the work we'll do. So we'll do about uh, after I say my piece, and Anne's got some additional thoughts on creative thinking, then we'll break into about 25 minutes of working group session. We'll take a 10-minute break or so right around the top of the hour. Then we'll have another 25 minutes of working group. And then we'll do the last part of the meeting just reporting out as a big group. And I'll give you instructions on kind of what all of that looks like. But before I turn it to Anne, I'll share my screen and we can look at a little more detail on those three themes. So communal prayer is about how we get together as an Oblate community in different modes and in different venues. And our small working group from the Oblate Advisory Committee for each of these themes suggested some possible actions or activities that we might launch. And I want to really emphasize that these were possible ideas. We were trying to give you a sense of what we meant by each of these themes, but we didn't want to necessarily constrain the spirit and the conversation of where you might want to go with it. So the things we identified under communal prayer would be trying to assertively promote and expand the Benedictine spiritual practice groups that we have, both in person and on Zoom. The goal, the hope of engaging the remote oblates in some way and creating more opportunities for the remote oblates to gather in a Zoom format. In terms of in person, continue to encourage attendance at daily noon prayer and lunch at the monastery with the sisters. Even kind of a theme of make a date with the sisters and your friends to try to do that as a regular form of being present to each other and to the sisters. And then highlighting the unique offerings of the Benedictine Center. So this is where trying to work as an Oblate community with the Benedictine Center on areas that we can be in communion with each other through the spiritual formation or spiritual center. So again, just starter ideas, you know, as you are breaking into the small groups, feel free to come up with other ideas, especially if you have ideas that you want to really take on and run with. So that's the first one. Second is spiritual growth and formation. Some, again, as possible ideas would be at our annual retreat, uh, make it into a refresh renewal weekend retreat with some formation and some class reunion mixers. That was one idea that people came up with. Another is related to spiritual direction. As you know, spiritual direction is a core offering of the Benedictine Center. There were a number of folks on those sticky notes who thought it would be really helpful to have spiritual direction offered at the annual retreat. Now, this would be kind of almost a sampler type of thing where people could get introduced to the practice of spiritual direction and then decide if they want to continue on by working with one of the spiritual directors either at the Benedictine Center or elsewhere. Also related to spiritual direction would be having group spiritual direction opportunities for the oblates. A group spiritual direction, as the name implies, is where a spiritual director works with a group of directees, and there's group sharing. Some people like that better. Some people don't. But that would be another way we could go. And then related to the annual event, establishing a committee to organize and facilitate it. So that's spiritual growth and formation. And then last is what we called hospitality, subtitle advancing the mission. So a lot of this is about either collaborating with, like the first one, collaborating with Mission Advancement, Oblate, and Benedictine Center to better coordinate the offerings that we have between the three, better coordinate our communications, and so forth. The second one, which is a little different, is we talked a lot about there being kind of two opportunities for us as oblates to serve the sisters, to serve the broader Benedictine vision. And so one is that volunteering here as support for either the sisters, the Benedictine centers, one of the missions here. The other is more externally facing, where we thought of the idea of having us as oblates being Benedictine ambassadors out in the community, where we could work maybe with some of our Benedictine village here, Tubman, Common Bond, Hill Murray, Maple Tree, or other organizations or causes around the Twin Cities, or even in your community if you're not in the Twin Cities. But the idea of forming small groups, so it's kind of like where we have the spiritual practice groups forming small groups around spiritual practice. This would be practice groups forming around external spirits. And then the last of the hospitality ideas was having a calendar event, whether it's monthly or weekly, that is kind of all inclusive, so people know what's going on, the schedules for communal prayer, schedules for the various Benedictine Center programs, any oblate formation activities, and so forth, and having kind of a one-stop shop that people can subscribe to. So these are the suggested set to get the ball rolling, not an exhaustive list. want you to really, use your creativity. Um, but I will stop for questions before I turn it over to Anne. Okay, Anne, your turn.
So I'm just going to share a few brief comments about brainstorming before we dig into this so that you have a kind of a narrow idea of what brainstorming is. One definition of it is applied imagination. So they've done studies about people and how we adjust to change. And there's this little tiny percentage at the beginning that's always got a new idea. And then there are people we call early adapters. And then there are the people that, that's kind of where most of them come along. And then there are the ones that are more resistant to change. And but finally, there's a few percent that are like, nope, I'm not changing. And so, unfortunately or fortunately, I'm one of those people in that first percentage that always has another idea. And I'm fortunate at my work that they appreciate that. But I'm also fortunate that I have a manager that'll say, okay, stop for a second, and whoa, we're not ready for that. So, but where we want you all to be today is in that little tiny percentage. And I'll just give you an example. Many people are able to take an existing idea and tweak it into something new, but not so many people are able to just dream up something new. That's what we want to have you try and do today. And I'll give you an example of a time when I was working in my church and I'd asked my church council to do some brainstorming with me. And they were doing that tweaking thing. And I said, no, I really need you to think outside the box here. And they said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, something, even if it's outrageous and something we would never do, we should put that out there. Let's see. Okay, sorry. I was reading the chat. That it can be so outrageous that we know we would never do it, but it gets us to think of something that maybe we could. And at this particular time, it was something we were talking about worship. And they said, we just can't think of anything. I said, well, I can. And they said what I said. We could all come to worship in our underwear. And of course, they all went, no, we could never do that. But it was just this idea that just got our juices going. And what often happens when you do brainstorming is that this synergistic thing happens, that one thing just piles on top of another and another, and you come up with new ideas. So what we want you to do in this session is exactly that. Come up with any new ideas. We want one person in each group to be the recorder, that you're just going to write down all these ideas. This is not a time for you to say, well, we'd have to get this room and we'd have to do that. And nope. You're just going to do ideas right now. The next session is where we will dig in a little deeper to, well, could that work and how would that work and who could do this? So I think that's all. Any questions on that, on all that thing? And no, we're not going to do anything in our underwear at the monastery. So just, we can push that aside for now. So most of all, I encourage you to just really have fun. This should be an engaging and life-giving and fun time. So, all right.
We want new ideas in addition to what all these great ideas are already there.
Well, we'll take that and say, how could we do that? What's a new idea for how we could do that? Thank you for that clarification. But if it's something totally different, but that you think applies to one of those things, put it down. We'll dig it all out next session. So we will go until 9:50. So we have close to half an hour to just get to work and enjoy each other. All right, let's get started.
And just one quick wrinkle. So we're realizing that we actually have more people online than in the room now. So I don't know, Travis, is it too late to try to do two breakouts online? Okay, so what we'll try to do, one of the online breakouts can be communal prayer, one can be hospitality. And so whichever, we'll just let the randomness of Zoom help us get in the group that we're supposed to. I think in the room, Ann and Cami, you can still probably do two groups if you want to, or if you do spiritual growth and formation and communal prayer. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we should split into two, and I think it's okay to have two groups working on the same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome back, everybody online. All right. I'd like to invite you to report back. Whichever group wants to go first, report back. This is a mini report. It's more like just, did it go okay? Did you get some ideas? And there'll be a much longer time of reporting back at the end. So which group would like to go first? You guys are quiet.
This is Tori.
Hi, Tori.
Hi. I would like to report first, I guess.
Okay.
Our group was the hospitality group.
Okay.
We came up with some really great ideas, and I think we have some themes that are working together that I can see throughout that really relate to hospitality.
Okay.
So I think our group was really great, and I think we can maybe now take it to the next level, I think is what you're saying. So take these ideas that we have and expand on them and continue to come up with ideas, right?
Right. Great. All right. And what was the other group? Prayer, communal prayer, right? Who is going to report?
Rita, you want to?
Okay, sure. Okay. Oops. I was just typing out the notes that we had, and they came kind of under different areas too. Programs and their offering, and also dealing with the costs in terms of availability. Communication, how to communicate more. We are the monastery, that connection of the oblates with all the sisters. The groups that are currently organized, how to promote them better and to see if there are additional options that people would be interested in. And then also communal prayer, options of how to maybe live stream that or make opportunities more available for people who can't attend in person.
Awesome. Wonderful. Tammy, are you reporting? I'll just move over.
Yeah, so we did hospitality as well, and mission advancement. So I think we had a lot of great ideas and are just excited to kind of look for some themes. Tori, I was really interested to hear your themes, so that'll be fun to see if there's some commonalities. Yeah, so kind of ready to take it to the next step.
Todd, do you want to share a little bit? Just a minute worth.
See where I am, but anyway, hi. So we also had some good energy with the conversation, and one of the things that we were thinking, if I had to break down a theme, was kind of picking up what are new ideas as well as some old things people really like, and figuring out ways that people can and are able to connect with them, and how we can support them, creating spaces for people to give varying levels of gifts. Some people are want to be in charge of a show. Some people want to support the show and not run the whole thing. And so figuring out ways that we can incorporate those various needs and capacities and levels of gifts that people want to give, as well as provide a variety of experiences that connect to people. And so we were in some ways spinning off of the themes that had already been created, but just kind of looking at, okay, where are people connecting? Where is the energy? What how can we help that flourish? One special thing we noticed was that, or I think it's special because I said it, is that we don't need to be afraid of people being energized by various offsite activities, maybe Teze, maybe like a Celtic spirituality interest. People get interested, we can bring that home. And with ways, we have people who are talented and interested. And so that I don't think there's anything to fear by having people have good experiences off-site, because that can help people have good experiences on-site in the future.
Thank you, everybody. It sounds like there was good energy and good ideas. So that's exactly what we wanted. So awesome. So our work takes a turn now. For all of you who are not in that little percentage of being creative and are in the details, you're going to love this session. So that's what we're going to start doing, taking all these ideas and start giving them some sort of shape. But there's another piece to this. I was reminded recently of us, well, I should say, as a former Lutheran pastor, we love scripture. And when I was looking into becoming a Benedictine Oblate, that was the thing that kind of decided it for me, was when I read the rule. And it was so full of scripture. I was like, we can't go wrong with this because it's so full of it. And I was reminded of a scripture from Isaiah 43. God says, behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. And so that's kind of our charge here. We have been called as oblates to continue the Benedictine way of life. You all have here in the room a shell on your table, and that is a reminder of our baptism. And when we were called, and we were thank you, Cameron. We were made new into this new being belonging to God. Okay, yeah, there's the other one. Okay. Thank you, Vanna and Mr. Vanna. It is our awesome call to take what the sisters have built here and make sure it continues in a new way. So the questions to be pondering as you hammer out some details are, how do we live out our Benedictine lives as individuals or as this chapter of us, our Benedictine group here? What are we being called to do as a chapter? What is each one of us being called to do? And what is the one thing each of us can do? So I invite you to contemplate that as you work out some of these details. And then again, you've got 25 minutes. We'll go until 10:30. And or we can even say 10:35 because we're a little behind. And at that time, we'll call everybody back and we're going to have a more complete report. So Tyler or Travis, you want to do your magic with the groups again? Thank you, everybody. Eleanor, welcome back. I've got to get these groups under control here. So, is Jeff still with us? Yeah, there he is. Okay. Jeff, would you be the recorder for this portion so we can capture all the reporting?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you. All right. So we've allotted ourselves 25 minutes to have you all report out. So I think what I'm going to do is allot each group 5 minutes. And I know that's seems ruthless, but we want to try and get everybody done. And then at the end, we can toss about other ideas. Jeff has agreed to be our recorder for this because otherwise I'll lose the things we've talked about, and I don't want any of us to lose that. So how about if we go in the same order as we did last time? So Tori, do you mind starting? And I'll give you a thumbs up when your time's almost over.
Sounds good. Thanks, Anne. So again, our group was hospitality. And in the second meeting, we focused a lot on communication, connection, and community, and the need for an easier system to be connected. We talked about forming some sort of technological hub or a home for Oblate. So we can easily click on a link and we can see, what's happening today. Maybe have a link, and we were questioning this on whether or not daily prayer or prayer once a week is offered via Zoom. For those of us who are distanced people, we love this, that we can join these meetings via Zoom, but we'd love to be more involved in specific prayer sessions or mass at the monastery. So that was a question, and also something on our wish list that we had. Going off of what Jeff had said, we talked a lot about, choosing and personalizing how we are involved in this hub or this web. So we talked about receiving either maybe text message reminders or emails, and being able to choose a monthly email, a weekly text message, however we feel most comfortable receiving the information we want to receive, whether that be a reminder about a daily prayer session that's coming up, or a reminder about a practice group. We talked a lot about finding easier ways to connect with other oblates, sort of like a Facebook platform where we can message each other and we can share what's going on, or we can share these events maybe a little more easily. Again, we've kind of felt like we got lost in all the great stuff that's happening at the monastery and then at the Benedictine Center. And then we get the Oblate newsletter, and we're just kind of feeling like we put it off because we don't have time to look at all of this, where if we got that quick little pay attention, this might be important to you. And maybe it's not. Maybe sometimes you will get those messages and you'll be a little frustrated and think this doesn't apply to me. But, we really wanted that pay attention, whether it be for a prayer meeting, a practice group, something important that's happening at the monastery, or maybe just remember us, remember your Oblate community, remember the sisters, say a quick prayer, thank St. Benedict, remember the rule. That was really what we came down to, was investing in some sort of technological hub that's easy to navigate and that we can get reminders of what's going on in our group.
Those are awesome ideas. So, yeah, why don't we have the next hospitality group go, and then maybe we can kind of talk about all that together.
We're the other hospitality group, and the spirit is at work because the communication piece was really big for us, and we love the idea of, Travis, this is using your words, we are the monastery app. We could get an app, right? And Honor Your Inner Monk app, which is Mindrad's, is an example. Just, you could look into that. But we just thought that would, again, help simplify. Instead of getting flooded by emails, you could go to the app, you could do text messages, you could do, all that stuff. So just a way to consider. And then we kind of tried to stay big and crazy, even though we were supposed to get down into details. But we thought, wouldn't it be cool? And Stina, I'm just totally taking liberties here of renting a coach bus with a sponsor, bringing people off site, maybe picking people up and doing a monastery type event over at Crosswinds in Maple Grove, really kind of getting into some of those different areas that don't even know we exist. I had coffee with a potential candidate for next year in Plymouth yesterday, and she's like, where has the monastery been all my life? And I'm like, I know. So anyway, another crazy idea. Really liked for the collaboration of the 3 different areas, kind of expanding that a little bit even, and really getting to know, collaborating with liturgy and with the sisters and what they're doing, tours of the campus ministries, maybe speaker from Tubman, speaker from Hill Murray, speaker from Maple Tree, continue to build those relationships, and see where we can help. Maybe even we could do a progressive dinner with those organizations and do it that way. We like the idea of dinner for 8, where you could even do people geographically, or you could even do it online, right? Where you have a group that meets for dinner for a year, once a month, where you could have dinner, you could have conversation. Steve was in our group, so he was like, he could give us the sheet for Compline, so you could end your evening doing that together, just a way to kind of continue to build those relationships. We had a lot of other ideas as well, but those were kind of the big ones that we got really excited about.
Awesome. Did you get all that, Jeff? That was a lot.
Yeah, one clarifying question, Cami. So when you were talking about reaching out to different parts of the community, outside community, what would that look like, or what was the thought on that?
Is that the part where I was talking about the bus?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And Stina, thank you for clarifying that you're a pastor and wear all that in the chat. I appreciated that. So that could be where we know there's a lot of folks that maybe don't drive at night. So we could get a sponsor. We could have kind of a core group of sisters and other oblates, and we'd bus everybody over to a location on the other side of town, and invite people from that side of town that aren't currently connected with the monastery, and have some kind of monastery type event, whether it's prayer, whether it's dinner. I mean, we didn't get very far into the details of this. We kind of stayed kind of big, but anyway.
Got it. Thank you.
And I do have all this on paper, Jeff, so I'm glad to give you my paper notes.
Awesome.
Well, and I love the idea. And just looking at this screen, I know that at least 3 people on this screen live in Wisconsin. And so maybe once we figure out Maple Grove, we can come to Wisconsin and bring monastery there. I also know we have someone in Washington and Nebraska. I don't know, those may be beyond us at this point. So, all right. Just one question, kind of, Travis, I think you're probably the best one to answer this. I think many of us here in the room, when we heard this app idea, we're going, whoa, that's so cool. But what does it take to make an app like that? And who do we have among us in our oblates that could help us do that, so it doesn't fall on your shoulders or Cami and Jeff's and my shoulders?
Sure. I think this is an excellent opportunity to seek grant funding, because this would be something new. It's exciting. It's building community. It has the potential to be a model for other communities in the nation. So I think that first is just tracking down some good funding, so we do it well and have it be the functionality we want, and hire somebody who has got the know-how that I'm sure many of us on the screen are like, an app sounds great. No idea how they work. I use them all the time, but it's like driving your car, and it breaks down. You're like, no idea. So yeah, there are plenty of technological grants out there that would probably get very excited about something like this.
So maybe what we need is someone among us who knows how to apply for grants. So
I would welcome that partnership greatly.
Okay, we can put out that ask. So wonderful, great topics. Go back to the online. The communal prayer. That's, I think, who's next. Rita? Oh, you're on speaker. Yeah, mute. Sorry.
We started off with looking at how to make programs more accessible to people and to the oblates, and looking at how to provide discounts or reduced rates, either like through scholarships. Someone also mentioned, again, a theme that had come out of how to extend to the other ministries that are just, in walking distance to the monastery around us. The idea of passing on maybe a discount that an oblate might receive once somebody maybe at Tubman or Common Bond. So how to create more connection there. The idea also of personal invitation came out too. How do we extend more of a sense of personal invitation, like through the newsletter, possibly for oblates to share what they're doing, what they're up and about. It could be short snippets. It could be something a little bit longer, but sort of featuring that. And with that, sharing, like in the newsletter, of looking at the newsletter. How can we make it maybe easier to navigate, or people can pick out maybe just the pieces that they want. They may not want to go through the whole thing. Or how can we make it more invitational that they might feel a call to action, so that it moves more from an information base to kind of a sense of a call to action. What's the call to action maybe for this month? Where's the spirit moving us, and how do we move that forward? For the groups, how do we create maybe a sense of come and see, maybe some kind of online presentation of the different groups by the leaders, so people could get a flavor of what they're doing. It could be recording, people could pick up later. But just to get more of a sense of, again, how do we send out that personal invitation for people who may be interested in these things, so they have a sense of what they are. And then how do we steward these practice groups, coordinating with the leaders? Another area, again, is how do we create more connections with the other ministries? And how do we create maybe more personal invitations, so that if something needs to be done, and this was something that was brought out already too, how can we perhaps ask particular individuals if they would like to take on a particular responsibility for something that's coming up? Those are kind of the main things. If I missed something, somebody want to speak up? And that prayer, we sort of focused on program costs, communication, and the groups. And then in terms of prayer, how do we weave the prayer in through all of them? And again, part of it too is how do we make it more accessible, like via Zoom or live streaming, so that people can participate who can't come to the monastery.
I think we did mention something about the Oblate budget.
Yes. Oh, very good. You want to take that piece, Sarah?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay.
You've got it.
Right. Of, the costs that are, that would be involved if we're offering things to oblates or volunteers at reduced costs, that this would be like a budget item that would be included in the oblate budget. Perhaps scholarships, it's not a budget item now, and it could be included. So how do we get the funding? Can people also designate when they donate to the monastery that they'd like it to go into the oblate budget or a particular part of the budget? That could be an option too. Thank you.
Thanks, Rita. Yeah.
Thank you, Rita. Travis put something in the chat here. Do you want to say anything about that, Travis, real quick?
Yeah, these things have been bubbling up for a while, and MA's been having conversations about it for sure. We've been looking for quick fixes to some of these things, knowing that there's bigger conversations to have about how these all work functionally. There's a plugin for WordPress that we are really close to trying to implement that would be a calendar that you're used to seeing that you could filter out. So if you go to the website and just want to see oblate things or prayer things, you could filter down. The Basilica of St. Mary's got a good example of a type of website like this. But then once you click on the event too, it has all the information right there too, hearing the simplification. Like if you see it, you click on it, you want to register for it, go for it. It would include like all our prayer stuff and be just kind of, again, a hub. And we also know that our communications vehicle isn't the greatest. We switched databases this last June because ours got sold out. And the communications side of it is fine. It's not great. So do we need to like consolidate with our Benedictine Center and their use of MailChimp or look at some other platform that allows for some of this? We did just get text messaging through this new data base. So if text messaging is something we want to explore, it'll be new, it'll be interesting. But we're slowly building in capacity by this listening and just trying to figure out ways that we can afford it right now. And then, like you said, building it into the budget so that if we want to keep building on the good and let go of the things that we're frustrated about, that we find that platform that really serves us well. So definitely listening, and MA is on board with making this happen in whatever capacity we can hold here at the monastery.
Thanks, Travis. And Todd, are you ready? I brought you a chair this time. Yeah.
We stepped into our conversation identifying 3 themes from earlier in the morning of the Oblate companion process and experience, refreshing or revisiting formation themes that we all encountered during our initial formation, and then also potentially using outside events or invitations as ways to bring energy into our environment or our wider audience. And so probably the most energy got spent as we were looking at ways to try to support the Oblate companion experience and support what Cammie's doing. We were wondering if there's ways to find out who have been good companions and identify best practices and how people are coming alongside of each other, how we are drawing on people who have been practicing oblates for longer rather than shorter, and figuring out what is bringing them energy, ways to connect with them as people and their experiences. And then also figuring out ways to bring, and we didn't say it this way, but allow me to be blunt, fresh and good content that interests people, because we have oblates who are coming from all different sorts of places. Some are experiential, some are intellectual, some are longtime parts of the Catholic religious tradition. They want new, and so the figuring out how can we be fresh, I think, is what we were floating around. And so we were trying to figure out ways to beef up the presentations by providing people who are providing presentations with perhaps dialogue or resources from people who might not want to be presenters, but are learned or studying or interacting with things, or just having fresh voices. Maybe one person has done the presentations in initial formation before, and perhaps bringing a new person as an experienced voice into those things to keep things moving and growing. Everybody, just to say, there was this implicit tremendous affirmation of Cammie that she's a pivot person and everybody is really trusting her in that. And so trying to figure out how can we, really what we are talking around is how can we support Cammie's efforts. And then also, one person brought up, in the olden days, back before COVID times, we used to have this pattern where we had the Benedictine Center offering oblate content, oblate formation content, and the oblate community doing their thing. And that was meaningful and real. And so figuring out then, and I think probably what the point that was being touched on was that you had in more specialized or more varied, interesting presentations on topics that weren't the same 8 or 9 big formation outline topics. And so I think implicitly it was a request, can we do stuff like that? And I think we can. And since I happen to know somebody who works at the Benedictine Center, I can try and help that happen. But the big deal is that I think we need to explore that need that was being met. How then can we identify if people are feeling that and step into what does it mean to give Benedictine formation presentations and experiences systematically through the Benedictine Center again. We've just been trying to keep our head above water with offering programming at this point, just to get back started. And I think it's time to up our game. So I think, a last option. What about oblates far away? Oblates far away could be companions. There's a way for them to be involved in ongoing conversations with oblates who are wanting to become oblates that we could perhaps tap. And so, and since I've already implicitly been giving Cammie so much advice about how she ought to run everything, I'm going to stop now. So thanks.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for all that great feedback. Jeff, did you feel like you got it, or do you need us to review anything? Maybe he didn't hear me. Do you need anything else, Jeff, or do you feel like you got all of that?
I think I got it.
Okay, all right. So we're at 10:56. You're supposed to be done at 11, but I feel like I don't want to cut us off so abruptly if you don't mind hanging on a few more minutes, any final comments from anybody about anything?
And this is Shirley. One of the things I heard from our group, and I heard, I think, from everyone else, is this desire to be part of the noon prayer with the sisters. And I think we can do that. Like every morning at 8 o'clock, I tap into the Rosary from the Lord's live. It's a YouTube. I've got it on my bookmark. Is there something we can do at the monastery where we can tap in at, what is it, 11:30 or 11, whatever the noon prayer is, where we can actually feel like we're there with the sisters? Like I feel I'm at Lourdes with the pilgrims when they're saying the rosary, because it's widescreen and I can say the rosary with them. And I think that's what a lot of us are looking for, is that connection with the sisters, with the prayer. And I think as we're looking at things, and I'm only speaking for myself, but I heard it in our group and I heard it from others, we want to be part of the sisters' prayer life because it enhances our life. So I would like us to kind of put that as a priority and somehow be able to tap in every day if we want, or just whenever we can do it, but to feel that connection with the sisters.
Travis, do you?
Yeah, I was just typing in the chat that we just set up our YouTube live, and we'd love to make this happen, but it cannot happen without dedicated volunteers. So we just need to make sure that we have a team of people trained how to use the video software, because there is some setup and it's a laptop. We don't have a live streaming system like many churches do. But we've been wanting to make this happen for a while, but we know that we don't have staff capacity to make this happen. So we do need to create a group of people who care enough to make this happen weekly, daily, whatever we're able to hold. Yeah, for sure. I'm on board.
Maybe that's another ask that can go out to oblates of people that are willing to do that, at least sometimes. Shirley, were you going to say something? Okay. Other comments, final comments, questions?
This is Stina. I want to lift up one other thing again that was brought up in our group. I was in Shirley's group, which was a real sense of recognizing there's so much that we hold in common, that a willingness to do and put our priorities in what can really make a great investment, and being okay with the fact that we have to be patient, and recognizing instead of keeping to do a lot of little things, that if there's a consensus and a desire and a motivation to connect on something deeper and bigger, that in our group there was energy about supporting, where that goes and how that goes, so that way there can really be that kind of impact. And so not to diminish all the great feedback, but in our group there was also that sense of, if there's one thing that we just need to do and do it well, let's get behind it, financially support it with our resources, with the understanding that comes especially from the leadership of the group. But just a desire and kind of like empowerment then for you guys who are leaders to say, hey, this is what the biggest need is, and let's go for it, so that way we can really do something.
Thank you, Stina. I think it's a great idea. So, and we haven't really talked, Cammie and Jeff and I, but I'm assuming Jeff's taking all these great notes and we'll come up with it, and we can maybe then us and the advisory committee kind of boil this down now and say, this is where the desire of the oblates is. These are the things we want to do, and this is who and what we need to do that, and what can each of you do. So thank you. Well, I just want anything from the room, anything anybody wants to say.
I think this was a great meeting. I think the process that you started several months ago with us all coming together with our sticky notes and all that type of thing, and then keeping to cull down. I think it's really interesting that there's more people online than in the room, but yet I also felt like this was a really good sized group to do this with. Because I'm sure there's some people like, well, I wish more people would have showed up, right? But I think we actually got some things done.
I would agree. I would agree. I feel like we did get some good and important work done. So, Cammie, do you have any final things you want to say? I just want to say it's great to see some of you online I haven't seen for months, and I'm just happy to see your faces again. So, and I have a request to make of the larger Oblate community. One of my responsibilities is to help provide pastoral care for the Oblates. And so I'm asking if any of you know Oblates who are what we would, in the church, we'd call them shut-ins, that they just really can't get out anymore to come to things. If you can let me know who they are, because I would love to develop an active, at least I can call them. I can call them and remind them that we're still here caring about them and ask them to pray for us. If you can just let me know, I would love that so much. So huge thank you to everybody for making this day possible. It feels like we worked at a really rapid pace, but maybe that's just me. So I feel like we got a lot done. So thank you very much. And Jeff, I believe you're going to do our closing prayer.
Okay, so hopefully you can see the Oblate prayer. And I'll read it rather than all of us reading it so that we don't get a mishmash of voices. O God, help us to become people of prayer and peace. Though scattered far and wide, help us to get together in the spirit of your love. Give us hearts wide enough to embrace each other as well as those whose lives we touch. Enable us to listen and to learn from each other and those around us each day. May we be models in our homes, neighborhoods, and communities of wise stewardship, dignified human labor, sacred leisure, and reverence for all living things. Above all, O God, may your presence among us, among others, be a constant witness of justice, compassion, and hope to all. Amen. Well, thank you all for joining us. At the last Oblate Advisory Committee, we were talking about the desire to continue to do these chapter meetings. So we're looking at potential dates, but probably around every quarter. So about 3 months from now, getting together, and the advisory committee will think about how best to use our time. If you have ideas about what you'd like to do with future chapter meetings, let us know. And with that, I'll let you all go back out into the cold, and thank you for your time.
Bye, everybody.
Y'all take care.
Bye.